And alright, we're back with another Let's Play Sierra Games. So, if you're watching this video, if you happen to think that the person responsible for all of this is Rudy or Rudolph, go ahead and hit the like button, and that's how you show you vote for him. If you think Colonel Dijon is behind all of this, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you think your best friend Lillian may have been the biggest murderer in this whole game, go ahead and click the like, subscribe, notification, and share. So that way everyone finds out what a crappy friend Lillian is. Alright, so we're going to talk about Laura Bow, The Colonel's Bequest. Originally this game was just called The Colonel's Bequest. The game did so well that they actually made a sequel called Laura Bow, The Dagger of Amun-Ra. So a lot of people actually go back and refer to this one as Laura Bow, The Colonel's Bequest, rather than just calling it The Colonel's Bequest, even though The Colonel's Bequest is the official title. So your friend Lillian shows up and she's like, hey, you know what? My uncle, I believe it is, has this announcement to make. We're going to go hang out at the manor. You should come. It's a manor up in New Orleans. It's kind of off and secluded, kind of super creepy, something that you would enjoy. And you say, you know, I'm kind of studying, but I don't really want to go. But eventually Lillian convinces you to go. And you have to really wonder why she would convince you to do that. Because stuff starts going down. Because just now what happened is Colonel Dijon walked in and said, hey, my time is almost done. I'm going to split the money between all of you who survive. I'm going to split the money between all of you. Should any of you pass away or anything like that, it'll be split between those of you who are still alive. Naturally, similar to any Clue game, you assume stuff's about to go down. Like, if it's going to be split by those who survive, everyone's here and now that is in on the cash, well, you can probably guess people are going to start dying left and right. So this game is super incredible. I can't say it good enough. I can't say enough good things about it, I should say. I should learn English. There's a number of characters through the whole game. And as you talk to them, you can ask them about the other characters and stuff like that. And as you go, you'll find out other things that you can also ask them about. You might find out about other people, or you might find out the name of a horse or a dog or a bird and stuff like that. And even another name that you might figure out later that some people might know, some people won't. And a lot of times when you ask about themselves, they just say, I'm not going to tell you about myself. And I feel like every time I play this game, which is one of the main reasons I love it so much, other than the fact I think it's one of the most beautiful Sierra games, graphic-wise for the era. To me, it's astounding. But other than that, like, I feel like every time I play, I find something new. Like, I've played this game a number of times, and I feel like I still keep finding new things about this game. So I remember, like, the first time I ever played it, I didn't know you could move like the cabinets and go spy on people, and by doing that you learn much more. So the very first time I played this, at the end it gives you a sleuth meter, and for example this is going to show that you can go into a secret passage. It shows a sleuth meter and it's like, you did all right. And I was like, what did I miss? Like, I got to the end, I figured out who was who and stuff like that. But this is what I mean by spying on someone. And I eventually bought the hint book back in the day, like when this game had first come out. And then it talked about moving those cabinets and then the clock and the mirror. And I was like, wait, what? So once again, this will move the cabinet and you can go spy on the other two rooms. And they kind of allude to it because when you look at the pictures on the wall, it says the eyes in the photo have a hollow look because they're cut out. And so you can spy on people this way and learn a lot more information versus when you typically walk into the room, if they're in there. You'll catch part of the conversation and they'll stop once they see you. So spying on them will grant you a lot more information. So that's definitely the way to go. And something I did just on this playthrough, because I wanted to get as much as I could out of the game, is typically I would go into an area and I would save, like when I'd go into a passage or whatever, and I would save, just in case when I look through and see something, if it moves time forward. For example, now it's 7:30. So what I would often do is I'd restore back, walk around, look around other things, and see if there's something that's more pertinent that I might learn, um, that triggers time forward. Because it's not just, for example, how this moved to 7:30. It's not only this room that'll trigger it to 7:30. I can go into another room and see something else that'll move it to 7:30, at which event I may potentially miss this conversation, for example. So a lot of times I was saving before I'd go look into something and then restore and go, okay, let's go see what else I can find out, or what else I can overhear, or what else I can see. And sometimes, for example, now it's 7:45, sometimes by doing that, you can find out more information, and it updates your notebook, and it grants you more information to know so that you can talk about them. Now, the one thing that I forgot to do for the first half of this game, a lot of times I was just saying, ask about XYZ, or, ask about Rudolph and get information about him. You can also just say, talk to, and then whoever you're talking to, and they will also provide you information. So that was something I forgot to do for the first half of the game, which I unfortunately missed a few things by not just straight up talking to them versus just always asking questions. And so the big thing with this game is you want to be super observant about everything. So if you can look at everything, pick up everything, just talk to everyone about everything you know. So one of the things that I did when I started this game is at the beginning, it introduces everyone. And you have the beginning part where there was a fingerprint to pick from. So what I did is I wrote everyone's name down from the fingerprint list that you have to choose from. And I said, well, I already have a base of who I need to ask about. And so you eventually figure out there's more people in the house. For example, this wonderful woman here, you find out that she's in the house, so you can go ask about her to the other people as well, and stuff like that. So definitely keep track of everything you hear and discover and ask about it. And that's one of the weird things. So like here, if you say open door, it'll say you open a chute. But if you say open chute, it says you can't do that. The doctor is, he's pretty funny in a weird, creepy way. Because he'll hit on you and stuff like that. And then you find out that that's kind of his shtick. If you ask him about like Lillian, he'll say that, oh, she's got a messed up past, but she looks very nice for everything she's been through. So a lot of this I'll be speeding through, where I'm not talking about it, where I'm questioning people, because all I'm doing is questioning people about their different names. And so it's just me saying, ask about XYZ, 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 and going down the list. Oh, and I should say, obviously, if it's not clear, that this is the sped up version. My original play of this game turned out to be 8 hours and 45 minutes. So if you need to go to sleep and you need something to listen to just in the background, there is a playthrough that is 9 hours long, which is, the average amount of sleep people get. So you start it, go to bed, you get to listen to the beautiful music that is in this game, and just go to sleep. But the sped up version I also uploaded, this turned out to be, I think, 2 hours and 11 minutes. And so this version that with the commentary would be a little bit shorter, because what I'll do is I'll speed up portions where I'm not talking. So that'll trim it down even a little bit more. So this bird that's here, you'll find out that the name is Polly. Eventually you'll get a hold of some crackers later from Jeeves. Down in his apartment, or not apartment, his basement, I guess you could say. And what I would recommend doing is, once you get the crackers, come up and give it to Polly. And every time some time passes by, come back and give a cracker to Polly. But always save before you give a cracker to Polly, because there are times where Polly will give you information that will be pertinent to what you're trying to figure out. So, and sometimes the clues are very obscure, like it'll say, she's after me, or whatever, something along those lines. That's my best parrot impression, if that was not clear. So sometimes it's kind of vague, like she is after me. Okay, well, that kind of narrows it down. Whoever may be doing this may be female. Fortunately, there's a lot of females and a lot of males, but as this starts to wind down, the amount of males and females begin to decrease. So before you give a cracker to Polly, save the game, give the cracker to Polly, and if she or he, I don't know what gender Polly is, gives you information, go ahead and proceed with that. Otherwise, just restore to before you gave the cracker to Polly. If it just says rock or whatever, I can't remember what she says if it or he says when it's just a cracker with no information. And I should say, I'll probably decrease the music in this one, but in the sped up version, in the description, I talked about how, because there's so much music in this game, in the sped up version, I didn't want like the essential chipmunk sound of the soundtrack playing because it's all sped up. So I basically wiped out the audio track of the sped up version and then just reapplied just the soundtrack over it and then reduced the volume of it. So it doesn't match what's happening on the scenes. It's just literally the soundtrack playing over it, just so that there's music instead of just pure silence for 2 hours and 11 minutes, which I think some people may wish that on the commentary version with me talking, there was silence for 2 hours and 11 minutes. If that's what you're looking for, there's a sped up version of this video that you can just listen to music and not my voice. But if you're looking for the commentary version because you love the sound of my voice or you just think I'm weird, this is the right version. So, in the graveyard, there is a random chance of seeing a ghost of a female. And the ghost is the ghost of a girl named Sarah, which you'll learn more about. I don't know how frequently the ghost appears, but it's not every time. But through my playthrough, I managed to trigger her twice. There is also another Easter egg actually right on this screen where that statue is seen flying around in the background. And I also managed to trigger that one twice. They're both completely random. As far as I know, I don't think there is any trigger or any sequence that does it. It's just if you happen to go into that screen, it does a check against XYZ. If X equals whatever, trigger the event. So I just thought that was pretty cool. And then there was also where you saw me climb up the little thing where the bell was. There is a Easter egg, I guess you can call it, where the bell falls on Laura when you try to do something. And normally it just falls on her and she dies. But there's also one where it falls on her and she shrinks. And you just see her feet under the bell and she hits the tree and falls over. And then she dies. But that one is super rare also because I died a number of times trying to trigger it. And I finally got it to work. And once I got it once, I was like, okay, it's there. I'm done. I'm just going to move on. So I just believe this game is so beautifully rendered. And there's a lot of cool things that I like. There are scenes where, like in the background, where you can see the clouds like that. You see the flash of lightning. You see the flash of lightning, and if you stay on the screen for a few seconds, you'll hear this of like thunder rolling. I just thought that was such a great touch. I mean, this game is so beautifully done, both visually. The music is amazing. There's so many good characters. Sound effects are great. So I just really like what they did with this game. Now, I will say I didn't think, so in here, in this carriage room, you get the oil can, and then if you look in the carriage thing, for whatever reason, there's a crowbar, and you automatically pick it up. If you look in there, it says, oh, there's a crowbar, you take it with you, you might use it. So you will just take the crowbar automatically if you need those two items. I already forgot what I was talking about before that. And so clearly there's a few things hanging here. One thing that I remember is that there's that lantern in the back. And so, try to pet good old Blaze and see if that'll let you get the lantern. You open it, nope. If you just open it, Blaze straight up kills you, even though he lets you get pet. So you'll need something to appease Blaze before you can actually get to that lantern back there. So a few things need to happen before that can even happen. So then right there, you'll notice that the floorboard is weird. Now, this took a while, like to pry floorboard, remove floorboard, use crowbar on floor, and then it's like, what do you want to use a crowbar for? And I was like, dot, 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 dot. I just told you. So this took a long time. So you just literally walk around and you have to try to get the floorboard to work. I don't understand why it's not just like pry floorboard. There you go. So I think it was pry floorboard with crowbar. And if you look inside, there's a Bible and it's got some names in there. And you notice the last name in there is Sarah Marie something. And then there it is. So there's a note from Sarah that gives you a clue about Lancelot, who was a knight who wore armor, part of the Round Table. Oh, wait a minute. Didn't we see armor in the house? Why, yes, we did. So we can do something with the armor. And unfortunately, you can't use a crowbar to ring the bell. Nor can you use it to ring the bell from the top. You'll need something else. So we'll come back later. And then this is the weapons room. So if you look in the cabinets, it talks about there's a few weapons in here, stuff like that. That'll come into play later because eventually you'll come in here and Lillian's just sitting down and you'll have surprised her and the weapon cabinet will be open. Let me tell you, your friend Lillian kind of loses it in this game. And now that we have the name Sarah, we can go around and ask people about Sarah. So try to get in the basement, it's locked. Now, I was surprised that she didn't have information to tell about Sarah. You figure of all the people, she would have had information. She seems like the most friendly and approachable in the game. So this took a while trying to figure out how to use the oil can, because when you look at the armor, it says it's rusted. So then you have to say, use oil can on helmet. You open the helmet. There's a note in there. Once again, it's to Sarah. And it's another clue as to her favorite fountain and stuff like that. And there was a weird little valve handle in there. So we're going to head back to where we saw a fountain before. And notice that there was a little, looks like a keyhole. So you put the valve in the shaft. And I would say, I don't know if you've watched any of my other games or if this is the first time you've watched it. When you see a save game pop up like this and it seems frozen, what I'm actually doing is I'm actually going into the directory of the game, taking all the save games, moving them into a folder where it's called like LBCBSG01, for example. So Lorbo, Colonel's Bequest, save game 01. And I move all my save games into there, and then this frees up this directory to be able to save more games. So that way I can keep saving the games. So you turn the lever and this turns the fountain on. So, okay, that seems like really weird. Like, okay, this seemed like a good clue. What do we do here? Turn the valve again and it turns it off. So it just seems to be a thing for the water. But wait, there's more. We'll find out more later. So look crack, look at statue. Can you move the statue? Why, yes, yes you can, just like you can move the frickin' clock, the mirror, the cabinets. Oh, so it's a secret passage. Oh! But if you go down there, oh! You'll just die. So what that tells us is, guess what we need? Remember that lantern we saw with Blaze in the stable? Yeah, we need that lantern, or else you just plunge to your death every single time. So in order to do that, we'll have to wait a while. So no one there, and that's because it's the cook's house. You'll eventually catch up with her there. It's her house. So you'll note that there's quite a few people in this game who smoke. And that's the other thing. So when you come upstairs, the chandelier will randomly shake. And I don't know what the percentage is that will make the chandelier shake, but it happened every so often. So if anyone knows how often that chandelier is supposed to shake, feel free to let me know in the comments. And oh my. So it looks like Fifi and Colonel Gizon have something going on. But is there more to it? Why, yes. Yes, there is. Of course there is. So, everyone in this house has a secret. No joke. So, you'll learn more about Fifi. You'll learn more about Colonel Dijon. So, oh, and one of the other things you'll want to ask about, I should say, other than the names, is you want to ask about Misty Acres, which is the property that this is all taking place on. Which you get the name as soon as you walk by the gate. It says Misty Acres, so you know that information. And notice he says, I have no idea who Sarah is, but the game has programmed the name Sarah clearly, because if you were to say, ask about Tom or Thomas, he would say, I don't know what you're talking about. So clearly the name Sarah is relevant. It's so funny because when we spied, we saw her leave. So what I've done is I've restored because the time moved forward. As I said, in this playthrough, what I did is I would restore if the time moved forward before I'd done very much. So I forgot to save before I went into another room, so I had to come back over here and talk to him again, which is why you see me talking to him once more. Because I just restored, but I failed to save after I talked to him. Which I think may have been my downfall. Because when I reached the end so right before the end I saved, and you can choose between two people. So I did the bad ending, or incorrect ending, I guess you could say. And then I did the good ending. And when I did the good ending, I was one little sliver thing away. But when you look at the notebook, there was two things that I missed out on. It doesn't tell you what, but it just says this portion was incomplete. And I think because I may have restored on something where I saw information and then kept playing thinking I'd seen it. So I did not get the 100% Super Sleuth, which I don't think I've ever gotten, but I do believe this is the closest I've ever gotten. No, and I will say that. So at the end, after it's done, the game does show you Laura's notes. Like, oh, this person has a secret. This person did this. This person had a connection to this. This person had debt to this. And the thing is, like, during the game, you're not able to look at those notes to kind of remind yourself of what's going on. So you kind of just have to either remember or write down your own notes, which is kind of a bummer that clearly the game is keeping track of those notes, but there's no way to look at those notes. Or if there is, I couldn't figure it out because I kept saying, look notes, look notebook, and it was not showing it to me. And if I did tab to look at it, it would just show me a picture of the notebook, say, hey, this is your notebook. Well, yeah, but what am I writing down like that I see at the end? Like, how come I can't see that before the end? Obviously not that it says incomplete or whatever, but just the notes that Laura is clearly taking. And if there is a way to do it, and I just failed to remember how to do it this playthrough, go ahead and let me know in the comments. And you can, for example, so like this, I think set it to, 7:45 time. Had I not done something to trigger the 7:30 time, I could have walked in here and that would have triggered it to 7:30 versus setting it to 7:45. So there are certain events in the house that are triggered to happen and move the time forward, where if you didn't hit this trigger to move it to 7:30 and I went here instead, where we saw earlier it changed to 7:45, it'll actually change it to 7:30. So if that made any sense at all. You don't have to see the events in order to trigger the time forward. So I don't have to go to this room to make it go to 7:30. I can go into this other room and make it go to 7:30, and then go back to this room, and then it becomes 7:45, for example, if that makes more sense. Now, just in that screen I was just in Colonel Dijon's room, the elevator was there, and if he's in the room, he'll say, "Don't go in my elevator." But later on, you will need to actually get in that elevator. This was cool. You can actually sit in the swing and break it, and then it just remembers it. I considered restoring because I wasn't sure if breaking it did anything, but apparently did not. Let's see, there's where you can see the name Misty Acres. And I do love that you can see Fifi and Jeeves moving around the house doing their duties from time to time. For example, Fifi here. But earlier we saw Jeeves serving drinks, and then later on, which you should already suspect something is up when things start happening around the house. When you're in the room where some of the evidence is, Jeeves will just show up and start cleaning it because he's a butler, and I guess that's what he thinks butlers should do. But clearly, you should not be cleaning up evidence. But good old Jeeves, if you don't look at it in time, he'll sweep that stuff away. Now, there's clothes in that room, which is Fifi's changing room. And I kept thinking that there would be something there to find. But throughout the whole game, I kept going up there and searching her clothes, because it's odd that it gives you an option to search for clothes on the floor, but nothing ever comes of it. So I'm not sure if I missed something somewhere, because there was like 2 or 3 spots where it said incomplete, where if at a certain time you have to go up there and search her clothes to find something in her room. It just seems very odd that you can go in there, and then that you can search her clothes. I just thought of something. There was something that I never did that I can remember, where just like right there, I went through the door. I wonder what it would do if someone was actually in the room. Like, for example, there was a doorway to go into the library, where the doctor's at. But what happens if you go through the door while the doctor is there? Fifi is cleaning this weapon room for a long time. So, seeing Gertrude sleeping, I believe that's Gertrude. There's 2 older women. I always confuse them. But now Act 2 begins. And there's a handkerchief on the floor. And I apparently can't spell handkerchief. And this is so funny because there's a handkerchief on the floor, and she typically had one. So if you go back in, did something happen here? A small table is flipped over. Is that cigar smoke in the room? And then how did I not hear this is how I saved the game. That suddenly she's not there, the window is open, there's a table turned over, there's a plant on the floor, like it looks like something's happened. How? I was just in this room. How did I not know that something happened? So now things are just going to start happening, and oh no, someone just ran by outside up front. So we know something's up. Yep. Well, Colonel's over there, so it looks like if it's him, he moved pretty quickly. It's Rudy. He moved pretty quickly, which is possible, but definitely out of place if the Colonel had done it. You know, because he's in a wheelchair, right? Well, we'll learn more about that here soon. Good old Dad giving some tips here. Oh, and I will say there is, and I don't know if it's just if you walk down the middle of the floor that triggers it, but there is a chance where if you walk straight out through the front door, walking right down the middle, the chandelier will fall on your head, which I managed to do. And there we go. If you spy through her, now you know the bird's name is Polly. Now, the fun thing is, as you're wandering around from time to time, just like that, you'll see the shadow passing in front of the window, just like that. So whoever this mysterious murderer is walking around, and it doesn't seem like it'd be either one of these two because they're outside and they're having a fight about something. Let's go over here. And oh my lord, Gertie. Did she accidentally fall to her death? Well, considering the fact that she was sleeping, that seems very, very difficult that she had just accidentally plummeted out the window. And the funny thing is, the murderer will begin cleaning up the murder scene. So if you go back to where her body was, it's not always immediate. It might take like a little bit, like some time to pass. The body will disappear. But you will, if you do everything right, you will find the bodies again. So once again, all my save games here are saved. The only option is to replace them. So what I'm doing is moving them to a different folder and creating a new save game. So we just saw Jeeves feed the dog. Dog ate, and now the dog is going to sleep. Oh, and there goes Jeeves. So if you look in the well, it's too dark. Pull up bucket. No, all right, whatever. Let's go see what Jeeves is up to. Oh, well, looks like we may have lost Jeeves. And there is a way to actually look inside the bucket, or look inside the bucket inside the well. So clearly there's some money issues here where they've done something with a racehorse. And that a racehorse that they had bet a lot of money on that was actually Henry's didn't do so well. So good old Doc is like, we got to do something. Like, we got to tell him what we did. So already you can see like some hostility building up between people. So the time just moved forward by going into the kitchen where Lillian is talking to Celie. So I restored back, make sure there isn't other stuff to see first. So going into the billiard room will also trigger the time. So let's go ahead and spy on him first and see if that provides more information than just blatantly walking in so you can actually hear. And oddly enough, if you spy on it, it's just her in there. So spying is not always super beneficial. Sometimes you actually have to walk into the room to make it happen. So if you, excuse me, if you stand here, they'll continue to talk and you can learn a little bit, but not much because they're pretty sparse on their conversation. So let's see what happens if we do 8:30 here. Pretty much they just play pool. So pretty much conversations here are sparse for triggering the time forward here. And it's very similar. Like if you just hang out, they'll just continue to talk and banter a little bit. I don't think anyone ever wins whatever this game is that they're playing. And this is what I mean. Like earlier when I walked in this room, it triggered it to 8:30. But since I went into the other room, triggered that to 8:30. Now when I walked in here, it triggered it to 8:45. And so Lillian knows who Sarah is, so she'll give a little information. I do think it's funny that one of the logical options is to basically say, hey, I found Gertrude. Looks like she may have fallen or been pushed out the window. But there's no way to say that. There's no way to alert these people that, hey, some shenanigans are going down here. Like, I think we should call the cops, or maybe we should all get out of here. Like, I think one of us is a killer. So Polly wants a cracker. And you'll notice Gertrude's body is now missing. And now walking into the library has moved the clock forward as well, whereas before it didn't. And can I talk about how I think the opening theme is one of the best for any Sierra game, for Colonel's Bequest, where the magnifying glass is. It's amazing. So you go into the icebox and you find a bone and you chuck it, and when you look in there, there is a necklace. So even though I asked Lillian about this necklace, it's actually, I believe her name is pronounced Celie, Celie. She's like, hey, that's my necklace, which turns out to be beneficial because it ends up befriending her and she actually becomes more vocal towards you later. Now it's 9 o'clock and it's Act 3. More things are about to start going down. So now she's talking about how she wants to end the relationship with him. So once again, there is more friction being sown between the people here. So you can tell people can start having motivation for killing one another because of this tension that's mounting with the money. And the door is locked, but it won't always be. We'll eventually get in there. If you try to go in that door, it says it's locked from the other side. And that's why you'll need to ride the elevator when it's here. So currently you can see that the elevator shaft is dark, so that means it's not here, which makes sense because Colonel Dijon is not here either. So if you look inside that cannon, there is a key. So, which was super hard. It's like so random to look in there. It'd have been nice if one of the spying thing is you see someone go put that key in there, like either Colonel Dijon or Fifi. And then you see Rudolph getting slapped by Fifi. So that's really not good. I will point out if you're upstairs and you walk and you touch the railing, it will move it forward and you will fall off to your death. So restoring real quick. We'll see the slap again before I trigger the 9 p.m. Act 3. Oh, look at that. Door's closed, everything's back. Let's go outside. See if there's anything outside worth seeing. And now the basement is open. And we see Jeeves resting. Oh look, there's crackers. So if you just take them. And Jeeves doesn't really want to talk. It just tells you to leave. He's trying to get some sleep. Just seeing if the dog reacted to any names. That was me being silly. If you've played Gabriel Knight, where I just said ask about voodoo, there's a part in Gabriel Knight where he says, "What do you know about voodoo?" Or however it's phrased, or however he says it. The Tim Burton is a much better voice actor than I am, doing the voice of Gabriel Knight in GK1. What do you know about voodoo? Oh, we just saw someone run by the window. So there's a good chance someone somewhere is dead. I noticed the doc has a monocle that he wears. Yeah, that'll come into play later. So I've walked around, seen pretty much most of the areas, so moving it to 9 o'clock. See what we can find out. So this is pretty much the only time you actually can get Gloria to talk to you, because otherwise when she's in this room by herself, she just would rather listen to the record player. Oh no, look at this. Chair's turned over. Good old doctor's not there. There's a poker on the floor. Some feathers on the floor also. From a feather boa? Do we know anyone with a feather boa? Why, yes, we do. If you look at the thing, it says the Racehorse Quarterly, and the name Sunny Boy is circled. I know right now you're saying, oh, look at that. There's a cane on the floor. And who has a cane? The good old Colonel. I know you're saying to yourself right now, well, you said something was going to come up with the monocle, right? And he's dead, so how come the monocle thing didn't come up? Don't worry. It's coming up. I promise. So restored back because it moved over to 9:15. Not ready for that yet. Have more rooms to explore. Ah, I just realized it. I'm literally hearing the music right now that I'd laid over for the soundtrack. There, oh, now you can see the Colonel just got up. I'll hold off on that soundtrack comment. He just got up and he just went to the cannon, which now reminds me he actually did go to the cannon. I had totally forgotten that. We did see that. But I think it's weird because we already have the brass keys. What did he put in the cannon? I think we have it now. I can't tell because we've restored. Um, what was I saying? Oh, I was just listening to the soundtrack that I laid over the sped up version, and it did the a version of the Psycho theme. There is a death in this game that I did not record because I knew it was there. But I highly recommend if you're playing Laura Bow for the first, or if you're playing Colonel's Bequest for the first time, go into the bathroom. Oh, yeah, don't look in the closet after like 8 o'clock. You'll get killed. Um, but go into the bathroom in Laura Bow or in Colonel's Bequest, um, save the game, and then take a shower. It is wonderful. It's a nod to Psycho as you enter in the shower and you're bathing. A knife glistens in the dark and you get stabbed and you fall against the curtains as blood sprays onto the curtain. Sounds super graphic, but it's not really that graphic because it's these graphics. Get it? It's not that graphic because it's these graphics. Listen, these are the jokes, all right? But anyway, um, one of the things you don't want to do, as I said, is look in that closet. I think it's after like 8 or 9 because the murderer will be in there waiting for you and kills you. So now the playhouse is open and you see Lillian is in there. And you're best friend does not seem at all stable. She's literally having a tea party with a bunch of old, beaten up dolls. She won't even answer questions. She'll just be in here talking to herself in a really creepy fashion. But it gets worse later on in here with your buddy Lillian. We'll get to that later. Oh, hey. Good old drunk Ethel. What's Ethel up to? Let's follow this drunk lady. She's just cruising around, being drunk. Not really safe. We've got two people that have been possibly killed. Ethel, you're not even walking straight. Ethel, you're going in circles, Ethel. Ethel, who are you looking for? Ethel! Oh, wow. You are really quick for an old lady. I don't even know where you went. An old drunk lady managed to lose us. Amazing. There's another one where you type use poker, but again, the poker is not the correct item to use. But we do have the right item on us. Oh no. Looks like we found Wilbur. But at least whoever killed him was nice enough to put him in a church. So that was nice. So one of the things that you do when you search his body, also when you find any dead body, search him. Because in this case, what we did is we found a monocle. And what you want to do, and I'll end up doing it a little bit later, is you use the monocle to look at some of the items you've picked up. So for example, Ethel's handkerchief, you want to use the monocle on that. The poker that we found, we want to use the monocle on that. Later on, we'll find something of Lillian's, and we'll want to use the monocle on that. And we just saw the body go by again. There she goes again, or he. Person in the shadows. So that moved the time to 9:30, so we restored because not sure if done looking around. See if there's anything more interesting to move the time forward. And the good old colonel will not tell you anything, which kind of makes sense, I guess. You're not even a part of the family. You're just Lillian's friend. And if you look at the bag, good old Wilbur, remember he just got killed? His bag is gone. Unlike other people, their luggage is still there, even if they've had an accident or they're missing, quote unquote missing. So if you say examine monocle or examine poker with monocle, you can say look at the blood. So now you know you can look at the other stuff like the handkerchief, and then you get like the signature. But I have the crackers, which I should already be using on Polly to try to get extra information out of. So I was pretty sure that someone was killed in that, I guess I'll call it a rose garden. But I think the person who gets killed, I think their body can appear elsewhere. Like there's multiple locations, I guess. And I'm not sure if this is for everyone. But now that it's this time, we can go over here and talk to Celie and get some information from her. And she has a lot of good information, especially if you ask her about Sarah now. So as you talked, especially to Seely and the others, you find out that Lillian has had a pretty jacked up past, and Seely kind of gives you a clue that Lillian is not just a little messed up, she's really messed up. So your best friend is not all right in the head. So while we were in Seely's cabinet, we were able to get a carrot that was on the table. Once you give the carrot to Blaze, you're able to get in here and able to pick up this lantern. Just trying to trigger the ghost by going back and forth. All right, so now we've oiled the bell. Oh, look. Drunk Ethel. Ethel, you should probably go back inside. It's not safe out here. But all right, you just do you. Ooh! All right. So we got the lantern. We'll head back over to the bell. And let me tell you, you'll want to save before you yank on the bell because you literally have to be standing in a very specific position. Otherwise, that bell is going to crown you. Which kind of worked out because one of the Easter eggs, I guess you can call it, is an unusual death that happens rather than just collapsing over on the ground like she does, like that. There is another bell death. And I don't know if there's a certain frequency or if you have to be standing in a certain location, but it eventually happens. There it is. So rather than just dying there inside, it falls on her and you see her feet, and she walks off and hits the tree. But finally standing off to the side, that works, and there's a crank on the bell. So we'll go ahead and take that crank. Oh, there's Ethel, swinging all about. And I can't remember if this is the first time where I actually noticed the crank, or if I knew what to do with the crank, because what that crank is used for later, I can't say with 100% certainty that I used it for the proper thing. The feathers are still on the floor. Jeeves is being slack. So there is nothing really in either of those rooms except for moving the time forward. So restore, make sure there's nothing in the other rooms. Let's go upstairs, see if there's any triggers for time upstairs. All right, so this is about a trigger where we're going to see some dialogue about breaking up, and Rudy hears like she was never your gal, and they threaten to duke it out. So we're going to go ahead and keep that one because that was more information than just Gloria sitting in a room by herself. Then time will move forward again, and once again, Rudolph, who moves very quickly from threatening the one guy to coming up here to try and kiss Fifi, is once again batted away by his advances are batted away by Fifi, who just wants to sleep, which is understandable. But notice there was a bottle there with 2 glasses. So that wasn't there before, and that bottle was located elsewhere before. The cognac. So the elevator isn't here, and neither is the Colonel, which means Colonel's either downstairs or he is somewhere else entirely. Spoiler alert, he's probably in the attic. Or in one of the passageways. So Clarence is sleeping it off. And we see a figure moving through the window, or behind the window. See the cognac on the table on the lower left with the 2 glasses. Why would there be 2 glasses if it's just her? Did Rudy bring it up? Or is there something else going on? See right there, he said she's after me. Yeah, if it just says cracker, that means that no information. So give the 1, and I should have been, as I said, as soon as I got the crackers, I should have been giving Polly crackers every time the time shifted to learn more information from Polly. Now it's serious. Now we're on Act 4, and it's 10 p.m. Gloria's in the room by herself. Things seem okay. She seems fine. What could go wrong? Let me go outside. Let me go. Oh my God! Something has happened once again. She's not in the chair. The record player's disarray. There's broken record pieces, and there's a muddy footprint, and there's boas. So let's look at the record with the monocle. And there's fingerprints on it. And examine the feathers with the monocle. They look suspicious. Could they be from Gloria's feather boa? And then examine mud with monocle. And Jeeves, what are you doing? You shouldn't be cleaning up a murder scene, Jeeves. Jeeves. Oh, way to go, bro. Way to go, bro. Trying to figure out who's killing who. Frickin' Jeeves. Now he's over here cleaning up this frickin' murder scene. Frickin' Jeeves. Let's see. Elevator's there, but the Colonel's there as well. Oh, with the cigar on the floor. Let's go ahead and pick that up. Because that's what most people would do. Is like, oh, I see a cigar on the floor, like a cigarette butt. Let me pick that up. Seems like a good idea. Now, the one thing that's odd is like you do use the monocle to look at various items, and sometimes it'll provide a fingerprint. But then you don't really have any fingerprints to compare it to. It's not like you have anyone else's fingerprint in the game that Laura would have. I mean, you have it for the copy protection, but you don't. Laura herself doesn't have like Lillian's fingerprint to know, oh, Lillian touched XYZ or whatever. I'll teach her. She can't break up with me. We know who that's in regards to. Nope. Freaking Ethel. Oh, and Rudy. Got like back-to-back time shifts, so. Oh, now she's outside and he's walking by. Another time hit. So we're getting hit with time back-to-back. So we're gonna try to follow him, see what he's up to. Oh, Lord. Now we just found Gloria's body, who had disappeared from her room. So let's search her body. And see if there's anything we can find. Because she is wearing a boa. So since we had so many time shifts, we're going to go ahead and restore back. try to avoid some of those time shifts and see if we can just get to Gloria's body without triggering back-to-back-to-back-to-back time shifts. And there's one, because we see Wilbur walking around. We'll try this again, see if we can avoid Wilbur walking around without triggering a time. It's me trying to save it by going outside without dip. So we can't go left, so let's go right. And if you go across, what's his name goes across that screen, so we'll stay away from there. And there we go. We got to Gloria's body. She's just laying here. So let's go search her body. Confirm that she was indeed strangled by the boa. And if you examine it, you don't see anything interesting. Okay, she's dead. Alright, so the only option is to replace the save game, so I'm going to go ahead and go into the game directory, move those into another save game folder, and then save. Now we're moving it just to 10:15 instead of 10:45 since we got hit with multiple. Oh, and it appears to be a duel. Duking it out, and he punches his lights out. He says, "You ain't heard the last of me," and then gives him the bird, which I thought was a nice touch. Like, it wasn't that he just stormed off. They actually took the time to animate him giving the bird. That was good. So naturally, like everything else, as we discovered earlier, you can move the statue. You try to turn on the lantern, use matches. You don't have matches. So now we need to find matches. But it's not an inventory item that you're easily going to pick up. It's going to cost someone their life, so to speak. Now, the thing is, so I was just in the bathroom where it says look in trash, and it says you can't do that. The correct term apparently is wastebasket, which we'll find out later. How trash isn't a synonym for wastebasket, I have no idea. And there's the ghost. And now the doctor's body is missing. And earlier when we went back, the gazebo, Gloria's body was missing. So these bodies are being cleaned up by someone. So if you do turn wheel, look in bucket. So I can't remember if there's any relevance as to why she would actually roll up the bucket. It's not like you find a weapon in there or anything, or like a person's body. It's just like a little extra thing. But I had thought, hey, if I'm not saying I would murder anyone, but I'm saying if I was a murderer on a plantation with a well, why not just chuck the bodies down the well? Granted, they would start to stink after a while, but with swampland, it always kind of stinks, doesn't it? And so now Lillian is not in here. It's just the room with the dolls. And for what I can tell, it's like a really creepy poster. I don't know what that poster is supposed to be. And there's Lillian just looking at the weapons like, oh, what's up? You startled me. And then she just sits down, like, nonchalantly. And then if you say, hey, look in cabinet, she says, don't do that. It's my uncle's weapons, or whatever. Oh, hey now. Not only do they kiss, he pats her on the butt and then looks at the camera. Well, well, well. Oh, and did it again. And again. And apparently this keeps repeating if you just walk in and out the door. And someone's walking by outside the window, which means something has probably gone down. Oh, they did it again. Ah, finally, now they're gone. Just trying to figure out where the body is as we cruise around the house. But not all the bodies are obviously located in the house, as we know. Aha, now the elevator is here. And this is what I think is weird. So we got the brass key out of the cannon on the fireplace, which is weird because we saw Colonel Dijon look like he went and put something in there. And if we look in there, there's a tarnished key hidden in there, which is needed to actually take the elevator, which is why I saved the game is I thought I already got this. But you try to put the key in the elevator, it doesn't look. So what you literally have to do after I had to sit here and struggled with this is look at the control. And then you insert key into control. And then press up. And this will take you up to the attic. And up in the attic, you're going to want to read the newspaper. And what's really odd about this game is depending on where you exit on a screen, it may take you to a different spot. So normally in a Sierra game, if you walked straight down, no matter where you went south on that screen, it would take you to the same southern screen no matter what. The way they have this game set up is if you walk, to the bottom left south, it'll take you to a different screen. Whereas if you walk to the bottom right south, it'll take you to a different screen. If you walk straight down, it takes you to a different screen. So it literally splits one screen going south into 3 different directions, which makes mapping Colonel's Bequest a little different. So see, if you walk straight down, it shows you this attic room, versus if you walk straight down over to the right, it gives you the door that is next to Fifi's room. So what you'll do is look in this chest and look at the gear, and it talks about how it has stuff from Civil War. And for the first time ever, there's a death that I triggered here that I've never seen before. So as I was just walking around searching, I think it's here. It might be when I come back. I think it's actually coming up right here in a minute. Right there. Just hidden from the boxes. I don't think I've ever seen that death. And so to see if it was random, I wanted to trigger it again. By following the same thing, and it's not random. He clearly is right there waiting to kill you if you walk by him. He or she, but clearly looks like a he right there. So even though you unlock the attic door and then leave, the attic door will get shut again. Meaning the only way to get access back in there will be through the elevator. But we still haven't found another body. Someone clearly has been murdered because we've seen the murderer walking around outside. Pretty confident there is someone else who's been murdered around here. And suddenly the door is locked on the cellar. Just trying to trigger the ghost again, messing around. And then this is clearly a bug. It says, look, Lillian. She's right there on the bed, literally reading. But the game will tell you that she's not there. You must be confused. Lillian is not here. But that is clearly her sitting on the bed. Now, when I posted this on the forum that I co-admin, sierrahelp.com/forums, someone had pointed out that if you use the mouse to click on her, you'll actually get a reaction. You'll be able to talk to her or see her, apparently. But just by typing the command, which is how I did most of my Sierra games back in the day, you don't get anything. And there's where you fall if you hit the railing. Oh, there goes Ethel. Now it goes to Act 5 at 11 p.m. Things are going to start really going south as we see that more and more people are getting harder and harder to find around the house. A spoiler alert, because they're dead, and it's just a matter of finding their body. And that, wait a minute, look on the floor. There's a rolling pin. Examine the rolling pin with monocle. And there's some blood on it. Look at the footprint. There is a star. Which I don't think I can't remember if it's ever, oh no! We just found poor drunk Ethel. Ethel! Maybe she's not dead, maybe she's just drunk. Nope. Clubbed over the head. With a rolling pin, no doubt. Damn it, Ethel. We told you to stay in the house, Ethel. We did. Said it's dangerous out here, don't wander around drunk, but no. Just couldn't have it. And there goes murder in the background again. So we see if you walk in on Rudy, it advances the time. If you walk in on, oh my lord, I'm totally forgetting his name. What is his name? Clarence or Wilbur? Clarence. Yeah, Clarence. Wilbur was a doctor, I think. So it looks like either one of those two will trigger the time moving forward, but they don't really provide any information. So let's wander around the house and see if we can see anything where information is provided. Now we have something. So this was a better advancement of time. We see a conversation between Lillian and Colonel Dijon. Lillian seems pretty upset at her uncle. Oh, and Fifi gets dressed. Oh my, oh my. Looking hot, Fifi. Now you would think with her getting dressed, with everything going on, Colonel's still in the house, Laura's just wandering around in everyone's room, everyone's business, that she would be more careful about dressing up in nice clothes, like dating clothes. So Lillian seems pretty angry that her uncle is not doting on her. So now if you talk to him, he seems to hit on you quite well. Calls you a swell girl, why don't you sit down with me? And eventually you'll make him mad. So again, I'd mentioned earlier that at the beginning, I was just doing the ask, like ask about XYZ, ask about this person, ask about this item. But you also want to talk to them. Because even if they say that they get upset at you, you can still ask them questions. So it's good to do both, which I failed to do the first time, which I think made it so I missed out on some information. And I also missed out on some information by not giving Polly crackers sooner than I should have. That time she said, Jeeves, kiss me again. So now we know it was when Fifi and Jeeves were in that same room at some point. And that time when you notice I couldn't remember if that was one of these rooms that'll mention that there's perfume, and one of the other ones will mention that there's a cigar smell. So this lets you know that there are other people using this passageway, not just you. So clearly someone who is smoking a cigar and another person who has perfume. And I know who it is using the cigar, because there's only actually one person who actually smokes a cigar. The rest smoke the long cigarettes and stuff like that. But the perfume, we know that a bunch of women have disappeared so far, leaving not a lot of options for females with perfume. So you can guess who the other person using the hallway is at this point. Because if it's not Laura, it could either be Lillian or Fifi. Spoiler alert, it is Lillian. Your friend is crazy. So we see Jeeves with his shirt off. Not a bad looking dude. And if you look on the bed, there's a bunch of flowers. And we did see Jeeves and Fifi kissing, which is a bold move, considering the Colonel seems to be intimate with her. And Rudolph wants to be intimate with her. So, bold move. Getting ready to go on a date in the house, by the looks of it. Saved it as Jeeves got game. And there goes the shadow in the window again. So Act 6, it's now midnight. Colonel isn't in his room. So I've restored to go back to make sure I didn't miss anything else in the other rooms. All these rooms are starting to look pretty vacant. So Act 6, it's midnight. Colonel is not in his room, which is not really a unusual circumstance. We've been in here before where he's not been in his room. So, but the odd thing is his wheelchair is still here. And that part is kind of odd that his wheelchair would still be here. And then now his wheelchair is gone. The elevator is back. So it's not the trash, look at the garbage. Look in wastebasket, look in basket. We'll also do it. And there's a bottle in there. Then if you want to examine, it's got fine print that says it can be fatal. Well, that's not really good. And that was Dr. Wilbur's, and Lillian is here, and she just closes her backpack as soon as you enter. And she says, I know we're sharing the room, but can you give me a minute? And you keep talking to her, and she says, this isn't fair. I just need to do something. Get out. And then she gets angry. So things are happening in this house. So if you come over here, he's writing in his book. And you talk to him a few times, says, I can't really talk. I'm doing some stuff. So we restore it again. Just kind of looking around real quick. And oh dear Lord, Fifi and Jeeves are dead. And there's spilled drink. So let's look at the drink, examine it. There's flowers over there by the cognac. And there's a powder sitting at the bottom. Well, we can guess it's probably the pills from Wilbur's thing, where we just found it in the wastebasket. Yep, and there's fingerprints on the cognac. I am frightened. What if it is the cognac that is poisoned? You should hopefully get the reference. If you've ever seen the movie Clue, I highly, 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 highly recommend it. One of the best movies ever. We see Lillian is scribbling in her journal. And in the other room, Clarence seems to be writing also. A lot of people suddenly writing this late. And the Colonel's back in his room, which is odd. He's just moving around, without his cane, because we have that we found in the hallway. And he was moving around without his wheelchair. He's just cruising around. So if you've watched the sped up version or even the long play where I'm standing there for a long time, a lot of times what's happening, just to explain that, and I forget to edit it. I try to catch it most of the time, but there are times where I miss editing, like that just happened. What's typically happening is I am helping out around the house, like helping my wife or something, and walked away from recording because I just get in the habit of just playing and I forget that I'm actually recording something. So that will happen from time to time. Like I said, I do try to catch it so that I edit out just standing there doing nothing, but it does happen from time to time. My wife, my wife has had a number of medical issues from a seizure, finding her unresponsive and stuff like that. So I do have to help her out from time to time, and at times I just get up and forget that I'm actually playing a game and recording it for my channel. Now we see. Now, this is the part that I thought was kind of weird. So we see Rudy petting the dog, and the dog seems content. Everything seems fine. And he kind of says, I don't want to talk. I just want to think about things. I have a lot on my mind. But the dog seems content. And usually dogs are said to be a good judge of character. And so what will happen at the end, and happens real fast here, but the statue just flew by. And from what I understand, the statue was actually supposed to be like a red baron or something like that. It's supposed to be a reference to another Sierra game. And it's a super rare thing. If you knock on the door, that triggers Act 7. That turns it into 1 a.m. And then she answers the door and says, what are you doing here? Shouldn't be outside. There's great evil outside. But what I was going to say is a dog is generally a good judge of character. Not always, but people say that about dogs. So when you get to the end, then you have to choose between two people, and Rudy is one of them. It seems like you would trust the dog's opinion, and he seemed content. We never really see the colonel with the dog, although the statue has, the colonel and the dog and stuff like that. And there's a dog over the fireplace and stuff like that. But it certainly makes the ending seem kind of odd. To me, anyway, someone who loves dogs, that the dog seems to actually like Rudy's presence and, had a tail wagging, wasn't growling at him or anything. I think that should have been a better indication that something is up with Rudy. Like Rudy tries to pet the dog and the dog growls at him or barks at him. All right, so once again, all my save games are used up. So I'm moving the files into a save game folder, and the gun is gone. And we just saw someone move in the windows in the background. You can see that the glass on the desk is broken. So that means the gun that was in there is now gone. Which means we are nearing the end of the game. Said sleep tight, pretties. See you sleeping in the basement. Now, you would think the basement would be Jeeves's room, but it's not. There is a different basement, which we see with the chutes that was in the dining room and such. But, uh-oh, looks like something happened over here because his desk is overturned. There's blood over here, blood on the floor. So as we examine it, we see and read his thing. He starts wondering where everyone is. He says, like, where's Gloria? Where's Ethel? Where is everyone? Like, something is going on in the house. And sure enough, something happened to him because there's blood on the floor. And, oh no, looks like we just found him. So Clarence's body has a dagger thrust through it. I love the fact that Clarence is just in the other room, and Henry's like, I don't know. I don't know anything about a murder. And there's no way for Laura to literally say, there's a dead guy in the room next to you. Did you hear or see anything? No, there's no way to do that. So, if you open Laura's suitcase, you'll see the diary that she was writing in, and you can read it, and then you can use the monocle to get fingerprint information and read it. And she talks about how she knows they were all in on it to basically prove that she was crazy and that she's not crazy, and she'll show them all. All right, head on downstairs, take a look around. I should say we got the matches off of the last body. So we can now use the lantern, cruise down here. It appears you discovered an old sealed off portion of the house. That is a rundown basement where there is a chute. There is a pile of something underneath the chute, down in that left-hand corner. What could it be? Well, Laura, let's go ahead. No, my lord, it's a pile of dead bodies. Now we know where all the bodies have been shoved down. So if you look at the wall, there's a bricked up portion, and there's a plate. If you put the key, nope, it's not a key. So what do we got here? Looks like there's stairs over there, but it's actually, oh! Alright, so let's head out. Spoiler alert, I had actually what I needed right there. I just didn't think it through. So found the bodies, we're going to cruise around. Knock on the door, she doesn't even want to come to the door or even say that she's there. There he goes. So let's give him a follow, see what he's up to. Wonder who's in here. Oh! So she's in here. Talk to her. What are you doing, girl? Something mighty evil's going around. Pray, child. So I went ahead and prayed just to see if it'd do anything. And no points or anything. Just prayed. Alright. So she says, just beware. There's great evil. Downside is we lost track of Rudy, but it moved the time forward, which is probably good because there is not many people left. So let's go ahead. Oh, Lord. You'll notice now there is a chalkboard, and if you count the number, it is 7. Now, if you count how many people have died so far, let me tell you a secret. It's about 7 people. So, and there goes the statue again. So, it's twice the statue appeared. So, clearly, Lillian is marking people off here, and things are getting really bad. So now that we've seen that, let's head back down here. Lantern's already lit. Head towards that golden plate on the wall. Insert the crank. You turn the crank and it reveals a hidden wall. And this is what I think don't recall ever doing. I don't think I've ever actually, and I may have, I'm just not remembering it, but this was definitely, when I did this, I was like, oh, snap. I don't remember this part. Like, a lot of this game I had memorized, but this part I could not say I honestly remember with the turning of the crank. I always thought it was a key that went in there, if I'm remembering correctly. I don't know if at some point I actually did it on my own or did it with a walkthrough, but it's certainly not super familiar in my brain to say I remember doing this part. So this portion here was pretty much new. So these tombs look like they're all sealed. I wanted to see if you could pry it with a crowbar, and you can. Look inside vault, and that's just a skeleton. So I'm going to restore. Let's just start prying all of them open. That one has a skull that falls off. Look inside. It's just a skeleton, so it's whatever. One says Ruby here. All right, let's probably, yeah, there's something in here. Look involved. And you see a leather pouch. Let's get that leather pouch. Let's look in the leather pouch. There's like gems and rubies. Get it? So the tomb that says the name Ruby has rubies in it or whatever. So, all right, let's get out of here. Now, no joke, I think I spent 15 to 20 minutes, if you watch the long playthrough, trying to figure out how the hell to climb out of here. So there are a few places in this game that I think they needed to expand more with the text. For example, when I was trying to pry the floorboards, I tried a number of things. There was just a number of things where I tried something and it had to be phrased a specific way. Not that I can say too much about that myself, because if you go to my personal website, which is TawmisTawmis.com/Final Soul, there is a text adventure game that is literally inspired by this game that I made. And I also, because of the limitations of the compiler I was using, had to truncate a bunch of my text out of the game. For example, it used to be like use knife. You'd have to type the word use. And the compiler actually ran out of memory when trying to compile because I had so much code in there, partially also because of bad coding at the time on my behalf. So I had to truncate a bunch of stuff. So use became just U, and instead of typing the word get, you just do G. And so I abbreviated a lot of stuff, and there was a portion of the text that I trimmed out, and I forgot to put back in correctly. So this led to a couple bugs in the game where it'd say that a door appeared when that door actually hadn't appeared yet correctly. You'd have to do something else for that door to appear. But there's also a part where you have to climb this beanstalk thing into the ceiling above, and you have to be very specific as to what you type, similar to what happened with Leisure Suit Larry 2. And there's a ghost for the second time. So I managed to get the flying statue twice and the ghost twice, which I thought was pretty cool. But anyway, in my own game, Thomas over at thomas.com/Final Soul, I also had the same issue. So I can't complain too much about expanding on text, but this is at least a professional game. Mine was just made in a living room. Or actually, I don't even think a living room at the time, because I think I was living with my friend Chuck at the time. So my wife and I we were crashing at their place because we had just moved back to San Diego. So we were crashing at their place. So it was actually written in a bedroom. So that was back in like 1995. Good gravy. So long ago. Who knew that while playing this game you'd learn more about me personally? So let's see. The elevator was here. Now the elevator's not here. Then Act 8. It's now 2 a.m. There is literally not many people left. We see Rudy is kind of looking around the room. Looks like he's looking for something. And when you try to talk to him, he's like, "Beat it, kid." And he looks around a few times, then he just leaves. So he's looking for something, all right. There's the Colonel. He's back. So far we just got the Colonel and Rudy. And last we saw, we still had Lillian as well. She was in her playhouse with the creepy 7. But clearly everyone else in this house is down in the quote-unquote basement. And then there's a note about she's got a gun. Well, if it's she has got a gun, that either means it's me or Lillian. And since we don't have a gun, we can guess who has the gun. Ugh. And there's where I said, I don't know if you walk straight down or if it is completely random, where if you walk into the foyer, the chandelier has a chance of apparently falling on you. And the dog this is what was weird. So the dog seems distressed. And there's a note on the door. And then it blows away. And it says, "Meet me at the hedge garden." So it seems like there's something inside right there that the dog is distressed about. But he won't go inside, nothing like that. And it seems like whatever he's distressed about is outside. So everything's going down now. Like, this is final moments now. But it's really hard. It's weird that he is distressed. Let's get... Oh, no. Lillian. That's not good. Someone has killed Lillian, and there's a gun, which was taken. And if you look over by her hand, there's something silver, which is the bullet. So we're going to go ahead and load the gun now. And folks, we are just about to hit the end of the game. Search the body, and there is a skeleton key. So you want to make sure to search her body. Always search everyone's body because you're going to find something. Because you're going to need that skeleton key. Because we're almost at the end. And having played this before, I do save right before using the skeleton key. or right after using the skeleton key, and that way I can choose. See, you hear scuffling upstairs, so we're gonna go ahead and go upstairs. You hear scuffling upstairs, so we know it's not this floor, but the floor above. And now we have a skeleton key, so we're gonna go ahead and, well, first we're gonna check the elevator. Yep, elevator is not there, but something looks weird. There's a bag here, and if you examine the bag, it's the doctor's bag. And if you remember, the pills and stuff were taken and thrown into the wastebasket, and the Colonel's wheelchair is there. So something's going down. The end approaches. Use skeleton key. Open the door. We're going to go inside. And we see Rudy and the Colonel duking it out. Looks like there's a syringe in their hand. And so the first person I shoot is the Colonel, just to get the bad ending where he's like, Rudy gives the excuse that, you know what, he set us all up. He brought us here so he could kill us. He never intended to share the money. Which seems like a legit thing. You know, the Colonel was not overly friendly to us at any given point. But would he really go out of his way to keep his money and kill everyone? So the next morning, after that ending, she leaves. And there's the boat later on in the same day. She thinks about it, and poor Lillian. And this is a sleuth meter thing, and you see it's 2 off here. And so you can open your notebook, person befriended, food, people found murdered, found the secret entrances, objects used more than once. And then if you look, items requiring close, it was incomplete, and people guilty of something was incomplete. So there are 2 things that could have gotten some more information on that I did not. And then the first murder thing, yeah, so there was that also. So 3 things I missed out on, which would have probably given me 1 more point. And then we're going to go ahead and restore, and we're going to choose the other ending, which is the better ending, where you shoot Rudy and you don't kill him, you actually wound him. And the Colonel explains that basically Lillian lost her mind, went around killing people, and then Rudy was like, well, I'm just going to finish this off. He decided to kill Lillian, and then he was going to kill the Colonel and basically say Lillian did it all. Like, she killed them all. And there was enough proof to point at that, and that the medication dose would have been excused as that the Colonel had a heart attack. And so you can see it's a much bigger ending. Like, the dog's there, the Colonel's there, Seely's there. Like, obviously the much better ending here. And then he knows that you found the treasure of the Silver War, but lets you keep it. And the dog is happy. And this is what I was saying earlier. It'd been nice if actually the dog had been growling at Rudy to know that, you know, he's a good judge of character to know that something is up with Rudy. So I feel like that would have been a nice clue when you get upstairs as to who you should shoot. Like, oh yeah, I remember the dog growling at Rudy. Shoot Rudy because he's clearly here for ulterior motives. And so that's it. So if you have enjoyed this video, if you dug it at all, certainly would love you to subscribe. I'd love it for you to hit the notification bell, share it around, tell everyone, and all that fun stuff. Thanks.